Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. A 2-year-old boy died in Greater Manchester because of prolonged exposure to mould in the rented flat where his family were living. Awab Ishak died from severe respiratory conditions after his second birthday in December 2020. The inquest into his death was told his father had repeatedly called the landlord, Rochdale Borough-wide Housing, to report the problem, but it had not been fixed. The coroner said his death should be a defining moment for the housing sector. Our North of England correspondent Fiona Trott is in Rochdale.
Well, during this inquest, it felt like no matter what action Awab's parents took, no matter what action health professionals took, nothing could have prevented this toddler's death. Today, the coroner said, how in the UK in 2020 can a 2-year-old die from exposure to mould at home? His family say the housing association was racist. His death has become a political issue. But whatever happens next, it doesn't change the fact that a father and a mother are still grieving for their 2-year-old son. A little boy who was suffocating in his own home. 2-year-old Awab Ishak had fungus in his blood and lungs. It came from this. These were his family's living conditions. Where they washed, where they ate, they were surrounded by mould. Today, his mother wept as a statement was read out on the family's behalf.
We have no doubt at all that we were treated this way because we are not from the country. Rochdale Borough-wide Housing, we have a message for you. Stop discriminating, stop being racist, stop housing people in homes you know are unfit for human habitation.
In a statement, the chief executive of RBH said, I'm truly devastated about Awab's death and the things we got wrong. We didn't recognise the level of risk to a little boy's health from the mould in the family's home. We allowed a legal disrepair process widely used in the housing sector to get in the way of promptly tackling the mould. As a community-owned organisation, we support the diverse communities of Rochdale. We're proud of the work we do with all our tenants. But inside the flat, mould still existed right up until the day Awab died. Here's why. In 2017, Faisal Abdullah told Rochdale Borough-wide Housing about the mould. He was told to paint over it, but it was a recurring problem. In June 2020, Mr Abdullah started a claim against RBH, but their policy meant work could not start until his solicitors agreed to it. In July, a health visitor wrote to RBH detailing her concerns about the mould and its potential impact on Awab's health. But IT systems at RBH meant not everyone had access to this information. In September, a community midwife completed a special circumstances form highlighting her concerns. There was no evidence to show it was received by Children's Services. It was not shared with the family's GP. On the 20th of December 2020, the day before he died, Awab was discharged from Royal Oldham Hospital. His mother was told to bring him back if he became unwell again, but because English was not her first language, the doctor used Google Translate. They did not specify which hospital she should go to. On the 21st of December, Awab was rushed back to the Royal Oldham Hospital. He died from a heart attack.
It's already the case that this tragedy has shone a light on what needs to change in social housing. We're bringing forward legislation. That legislation will make sure that the housing associations who are responsible for social housing are held to account.
Awab Ishak died a week after his second birthday. Today there's hope that this tragedy will be a defining moment for the housing sector and future deaths will be prevented. Fiona Trott, BBC News, Rochdale.
The government is committed to halving the number of homes in England that aren't considered decent by 2030. But for decades, people have been complaining that far too many, millions in fact, are living in substandard or dangerous accommodation. Our home editor Mark Easton is here with the details. Mark.
Thank you, Sophie. Well, despite this country's wealth, a significant proportion of people still live in homes that are dangerous to their health. It's estimated that in England, illness caused by poor housing costs the NHS £1.4 billion a year. Now, there is a decent home standard set by government, but the latest English housing survey finds 3.5 million homes fail to reach the minimum requirement. And of those, 2.2 million have what's called a Category 1 hazard, meaning they present the highest risk of serious harm or even death. Damp and mould dangers are associated with allergies, respiratory disease, and damage to the immune system. And damp and mould is found in almost 1 million homes in England. Now, Little Awab was in social housing, where there has been some improvement in the last decade. In 2010, just over 7% of social rented properties had damp. Now it's 5%. But that is still 200,000 homes. Owner-occupied properties have also seen an improvement, but damp currently present in around 300,000 homes. And in the less regulated private rented sector, 1 in 10 homes still have damp problems, and that's more than 400,000 properties. Now, there have been calls for damp and mould to be treated like gas safety and Legionella, compelling landlords to sort it out or face prosecution. And the government's also looking to introduce a legally binding decent home standard in the private rented sector, matching rules already in place for social housing. But this is a scandal decades in the making, with millions paying to live in homes that are deficient